Fucking everything's expensive. I own a painting company. I still can't fucking make it.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we're going to be talking about the Liberal stronghold that is starting to fall. Will it crumble? Will the Conservatives topple the Toronto St. Paul's riding? Liberals have held this riding for over 30 years. And now it's up in question because Trudeau is such a terrible prime minister. Now, if the Liberals lose, Trudeau will probably dismiss it as if it doesn't even matter, but really, this is a huge deal. Let's take a look at a handful of clips and see what the situation is.
The Liberal Party is sending in some heavy hitters to shore up the vote in Toronto St. Paul's.
I have been out campaigning, knocking on doors a lot in St. Paul's.
In a sign of how important Monday's federal by-election is, Chrystia Freeland is just one of a dozen cabinet ministers who've campaigned for their candidate, Leslie Church.
Leslie is working her heart out, and the whole team is there with her. And we're just going to keep on working until the last minute.
My hope is that she's going to be able to succeed, but you can't take any of this for granted.
Perched above downtown Toronto, the Liberals have held this wealthy riding for more than 30 years. But polls show the party is on shaky ground, some voters blaming the leader.
And I think Mr. Trudeau will be quaking in his boots very soon because it's just time.
Church has heard that Trudeau fatigue on the campaign trail.
People have been through a lot, a pandemic, inflation, interest rates. So
oh my God, they're so well indoctrinated. All these little liberal lackeys. Oh, it's the problems around the world. It was the pandemic. It's something going on in New Jersey. It's something happening on the other side of the world. It's everything except the problems that Trudeau has created. That's what it is, right, Leslie Church?
A Liberal loss in a safe seat like this could upend Canadian politics, but Church remains optimistic.
when they look at the alternatives, voters are wise.
The main
Voters are wise, and Canadians are not stupid, guys. The Conservatives are pushing hard on this one, and the fact that they mentioned Chrystia Freeland as a heavy hitter, I mean, we're talking about a corrupt loser who's running our finances into the ground of Canada. There's no real heavy hitters in the Liberal Party. They're all just a bunch of thieves.
The main alternative is Conservative candidate Don Stewart.
Look, we've had a super busy morning, knocking on doors, talking to voters at doors.
The Conservatives have a 15-point lead in Ontario. That means Stewart could pull off a huge upset.
Come on, Don, let's bring this home. Get these people out of power. Just get them right in their stronghold. Imagine this falls. 30 years the Liberals have held this. Imagine if Don takes this. They would be more than quaking in their boots. It's funny, too, that lady that said that, I can only imagine if they're asking her this, she looks like she's got a nice jacket on, purse, nice glasses. She probably lives in this neighborhood, and she's sick and tired of Trudeau, which means she's probably one of the wealthy people in this area, which just tells you a little bit about probably the direction that this election's going to go.
All of those metrics point to a deep and broad desire for change that extends into a city like Toronto.
This pollster is expecting a narrow Liberal win, but he says the Conservatives have some momentum.
Liberals aren't all that enthusiastic right now about Mr. Trudeau, about the government, and Conservatives are deeply motivated to get out and vote.
Justin Trudeau has said he's not going anywhere, but a poor showing in Monday's by-election could lead to calls for new leadership, this time from his own party.
Justin Trudeau is such a terrible man. Like, he knows everything is terrible, and he still refuses to step down. He would rather stay in power and feed his own ego versus doing what's best for Canadians and stepping down. And there's no other person that can sum it up better than this guy.
I take care of my daughter. I take care of my wife the best I can. I can't keep going. Every day it's something new. And then on top of that, as if you're not trying to spend money, you have to. Fucking everything's expensive. I own a painting company. I still can't fucking make it. I'm fucking trying, man. I can't look at my daughter and my wife and know I'm failing. I'm finally done.
We got to get Trudeau out of our country. Look what he's doing to everyday people. This is not a one-off. This is not even hundreds of thousands in this guy's situation. It's millions of Canadians, all because of one man's ego. Just sick. So going back to the by-election here, this is really critical to really just squash Trudeau and really stick it to him.
Toronto St. Paul's is considered a safe Liberal seat. It was held by former MP Carolyn Bennett since 1997 until she stepped down earlier this year. In 2021, Dr. Bennett won the riding with just under 50% of the vote.
Look at that. So 50%, 26. There's a big gap there, but then again, Trudeau has had a lot of time to destroy Canada since this time here. This is 3 years ago. A lot has happened.
With Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives leading the Liberals by as much as 20 points in the national polls, some are anticipating a much closer race than in previous years, or perhaps even a Conservative upset in what...
So what's interesting here is they said possibly Conservative upset. Well, that went from 49.95, basically 10% more. These projections are only projecting the Liberal stronghold to go down by 10%. I don't buy it. I think it's going to be more than that, even for the stronghold. I'm guessing that lady we saw earlier was probably a Liberal voter who's switched over to the side of common sense and reason. So I think it's going to be even closer than this. This 40% is going to be more like 35. So it all depends on how much the NDP factor in here. But Jagmeet's been propping up Trudeau's. I can't imagine them getting more votes as well. Let's jump over to the CBC interview now on the St. Paul's riding.
There are signs that this year it could be a tight race with the Conservatives. Could the Liberals risk losing that riding? And what would that mean for the Prime Minister's future? So I know that there is no poll done inside the riding, but I know you both have looked at a lot of numbers and have a sense of things. So I just want to start with where you think things stand right now and sort of what you'll be watching for on Monday night. I'll start with you, David.
Well, I think, given where the Liberals are nationally in the polls in Ontario and even in Toronto when we take a deeper dive, my sense is that, the Liberals are still the favorites to win on Monday. All else being equal, I kind of feel like they would win by 4 or 5 points. But I think there's a number of factors that are unique to by-elections and perhaps unique to this by-election that I think leads us to even a chance that the Conservatives will win, whether that's the high proportion of Jewish Canadians in the riding who may not like the government's handling of the Middle East. It's a wealthier riding. And as we know from our polling, Liberals aren't all that enthusiastic right now about Mr. Trudeau, about the government, and Conservatives are deeply motivated to get out and vote. So I think there's a lot of variables that point to this being a close election, probably closer than it should normally be, given that Toronto St. Paul's hasn't gone Conservative in over 30 years.
I mean, Eric, just the fact that we're talking about it, frankly, I don't think I'd be doing a panel about a by-election on a normal weekend. So the fact that it is up for discussion is kind of sends a good signal about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why this by-election is so significant. It's because it was a 24-point margin in the last election. Normally, a 24-point win is a safe seat. The fact that this is not necessarily a safe seat is really what is signaling what is so problematic for the Liberals right now. Because as David said, if you do look at those polls that are done across the province in Ontario, for example, and you apply the same kind of swing that we've seen in those polls to the results here, you more or less get a toss-up between the two parties, maybe a small Liberal advantage. But what that really just means is that if we do end up on Monday night with a 2, 3, 4, 5-point win for the Liberals will be happy to have a win. But that still means that the country is going towards a big majority government for Pierre Poilievre, because right now, he'd probably project 210, 220 seats for the Conservatives. Toronto St. Paul's wouldn't be one of them, but it would be a close race in that kind of scenario. So unless the Liberals are winning this by 10, 15 points, it is just corroborating what we've seen in the polls nationally and in Ontario.
I don't think it's any surprise. I mean, Trudeau's literally destroying our country and destroying Canadians' lives. So obviously people are going to switch parties because they don't want to vote for a monster. As the Australian news host said in 2 episodes ago, if you live in that riding, get out and vote right now. It's happening right now. Go vote for the Conservatives, get the job done. I think it's going to come down to like a couple of points, 1 or 2 points between the two. We'll see what happens here by the end of the day.
It's an important campaign. People are getting out at the doors. People are working hard. We don't take any corner of the country for granted, no matter what our lead in the polls is. And we're going to work through the finish line on this one.
Okay, Brad, the last time someone who wasn't a Liberal held this seat federally, it was Barbara McDougall in the Brian Mulroney government. So that's a long time. It's been the various forms of this riding have been Liberal since 1993. What does it mean for Justin Trudeau's leadership if this is super close or if they lose?
Well, I think that it's been widely speculated that for the Liberal Party of Canada to lose Toronto St. Paul's, that would put into question whether or not he would be fit to lead the party in the next general election. This is a safe Liberal seat. Even in 2011, when the Liberals had one of their worst general election outcomes in a generation or a few, they still won it with about 40+% of the vote. Now, one interesting theory is that are the Conservatives going flat out in this by-election? Do they want Mr. Trudeau to take on and be the leader of the Liberal Party in the next election campaign?
He's their secret weapon? Is that what you're suggesting there, Brad? They want to keep Justin Trudeau around?
I am suggesting that is speculation in Toronto. That is, they will maybe pull some of their punches to ensure that a safe Liberal seat stays Liberal, to ensure that nobody wants to change the leader going into the next election. It's just a speculation.
That's an interesting speculation. So keep the worst prime minister in Canadian history feeling a little bit comfortable with keeping St. Paul's, so then he gets decimated in the election. But that just gives him more time to destroy this country. Now, sure, if Freeland stepped up, I'm sure she could do equally as bad as Trudeau. But if they switched over to carbon tax Carney, we would all have no idea what he would bring to the table in his level of destruction to Canada. So it really can't get any worse from here, though. But that's an interesting speculation that the Conservatives would potentially want to have Trudeau feel a little more comfortable, win that riding. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. We got a post here from Brian Lilly of the Toronto Sun regarding the by-election.
And chances are the Liberals are going to win this riding, as they have in every election since 1993. But the fact that it's close is shocking an awful lot of people. I've been speaking to Liberals who think that their party's not going to win, Liberals who voted for other parties this time, and some who say they're just going to stay home. Truth is, none of the parties, none of the campaigns know what's going to come on Monday when the by-election happens. But I'll tell you this, if they do squeak it out, well, Trudeau's going to take it as a win and act like Sally Fields at the Oscars saying, they love me, they really, really love me, and he won't go anywhere. If he loses, he's going to face even more pressure to step down. Chances of him losing? Not very high at the moment. But by-elections, they have a way of fooling people, changing things. And as I always say about by-elections, they don't matter until they do.
So that's an interesting take there, very supportive of what we just saw from the CBC one, where maybe this forces Trudeau out of power. So we got this post here from Don Stewart himself, going for the riding in St. Paul. And it's interesting, if we look at the numbers, 231,000 views. This was just posted a few days ago, 5 days ago. So I don't know. I mean, it could be bringing national views to it. Maybe it's more localized. It seems to be getting a lot of traction going on here. So it really could sway one way or the other. This is going to be a clincher right down to the end.
The real challenge for the Liberal circles and Trudeau in his office would be caucus. If there were ever an upset, or if it was pretty close, I think it would be a fodder for some caucus members to start to get a bit worried about their own seats, even though obviously Trudeau and company will say, look, the elections, we got a runway and we can turn things around. But nevertheless, it's starting to become real that they could lose their seats.
Yeah, Trudeau's not turning this around. Let's get real. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. The only play Trudeau's got left is UBI. That's it. Where he can try to sway some people that are not being able to pay their bills and then say, oh, here, I'll give you $2,000 a month. You have to vote for me, though. And he'll put it in as some little thing that you have to vote for him, though, in the next election to get it. They technically could put in the UBI beforehand and then use that as a leverage. Oh, well, if you vote Conservative, you're going to lose that. So they could do it that way as well.
Yeah, to Brian's point, I totally get it that by-elections are often about sending a message. I think the different context here, Tom, would be that they're sending a message, if they do send that message, in fact, in a very safe riding for the Liberals. They're not sending this message in Alberta where everyone knows what the message is going to be to the government. And if they do, I think the elephant in the room is, what does it say about the leader of the Liberal Party, the Prime Minister himself, and his own leadership? Because you would imagine there would be some, wearing it, even if the margin is small, for example, by him.
Yeah, I think that as long as he wins, he's basically going to get through this summer okay. He'll do his barbecue circus. There will be some nervousness in his caucus. But to get back to the point that several have made, yes, by-elections are an opportunity to send a message. I won with Jack Layton, as NDP, in 2007 in Outremont, which was this rock-solid Liberal bastion in Montreal. And it shook the leadership of Stéphane Dion. And to make a link with the issue that was just discussed in the clips that we saw, at the time, the Liberal candidate had said publicly that he thought that Hamas, which had just been elected, was the legitimate leadership in Gaza. I can tell you that the very large Jewish community in the riding wasn't very impressed with that position, and it helped me a great deal. I think that there might be some of that at play. People don't necessarily have to change sides and come out and vote Conservative. Staying home can be part of it. If you get 30% in a by-election, you're doing well. If you get 35%, you're doing really well. I mean, total vote, 1/3 of the voters coming out in a by-election, because it doesn't have the drum beating and all the publicity around a general election. So Trudeau might have to have, well, St. Paul's is going to have a determining effect on what type of summer he has. On the one hand, if he wins, he gets to make his way through. People will talk and analyze this degree of victory. It's not that important. Then if he doesn't, he's going to have to spend the summer with his back against the wall to avoid the knives, because people are going to say, okay, if we can't hold on to a riding that we held with Stéphane Dion and with Michael Ignatieff, then we're really in trouble, and Mr. Trudeau's going to get the message.
This post on X from Chrystia Freeland, there's nothing interesting about this. What's interesting about this is below it, the comments. So she's obviously pushing Leslie Church. Now, the first comment, it says, "Is this a joke, Chrystia? Leslie Church doesn't even live in the riding. How can any constituent ever consider voting for her? She will literally never be there, ever." I don't know where she lives, but that's an interesting point if that's true. Another one of the comment replies, we've got this, U.S. economy is outperforming those of other G7 countries. We've got Canada here. We've got this one here, Trudeau took office. Moving on here, let's take a look at this. We got Larry Brock posting this. It says, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, this is Trudeau's right-hand man. I think he's one of his inner circle members he actually confides to and talks to. Which I don't think Trudeau has very many at all. But Dominic LeBlanc would not commit to naming the Parliament Hill spies before the next election. LeBlanc earlier said he knew the identities of the public office holders working for foreign embassies. The Trudeau Liberals are willing to run candidates who broke their oath to Canada by wittingly working with foreign entities. Trudeau's not worth the cost or the cover-up. Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. We have traitors who are still, they're not going to be unmasked and they're still going to be able to run for their what? This is ridiculous. At this point, do we need to start sending tweets to @Anonymous? If you're not familiar, Anonymous, I think it's the world's largest or best hackers in the world. They can basically get anything they want. They can get into anything. They expose a bunch of stuff. Who knows if a group like that decides to crack into the government's records and make it public. So in Canada, crime is legal as long as you don't tell anyone. So why hasn't CSIS released the names or got involved, as it's a clear national security risk? There's a video going around of the RCMP commissioner or whatever. He's saying that he hopes that they don't release the names because it might affect their investigation, blah, blah, blah. Canadians need to know. We got this post here. It says, oh crap, here we go. They're starting to spread disapproval of our beautiful anthem, O Canada. This is coming from the woke Toronto Star. Oh, Canada is everything that's wrong with this country. You're not winning any Canadian supporters with that. Our national anthem is inoffensive to the point of being offensive. Even from a purely musical standpoint, it's melodically stagnant without ever really rising or falling until the final repetition of Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Toward the end and right when the song starts, to gain steam and inspire anything close to patriotism, it's already over. Was this written by one of the Palestinian protesters? This is a joke. I like that somebody replied with this. This is from Oilers game. What do you think about that, Toronto Star? Sing it louder and prouder. We've got Canadian protesters pushing back now, and this is what I love to see. And where are they? They're right at the CBC headquarters.
You might want to tell the truth at some point, because everybody's finding out anyway. You're behind the curve, and it's really embarrassing for Canadians.
CBC, lie to us. CBC, lie to us. Tell the truth. 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 All they do is lie to you. They do not care about your health or your well-being. If they actually cared about you, they would have told you about the dangers of the vaccine. And they did not. And there's enough information out there that we all know that these vaccines are not safe or effective.
All right, let's jump over to my group now and see what memes we've got today. I lost my virginity when my bicycle... The weatherman said dress for the mid-80s. They can't balance the budget, but they all become millionaires. Yeah. Wonder how that happened. Roadside rally against the BC carbon tax Monday. Abbotsford City Hall. If you live in Abbotsford, you want to partake? The most powerful governments in the world can't solve homelessness, but they can change the Earth's temperature if you pay more taxes. Yeah. No kidding, right? Never approach a bull from the front, a horse from behind, an idiot from any direction. Whatever happens next, do not comply. Yeah, they can't be trusted. I may not be a smart man, but at least I'm smarter than the people who voted for me. Cpac, watch as it grows into a dictator. Fun for the whole family. No freedom, no rights, no future. Well, that's where we're going to wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think are going to happen with the Toronto St. Paul's riding. It's going on right now. Maybe you're watching this and the vote is already done and the results are in. But more importantly, how will this affect Trudeau going forward if he loses or if he wins, and by how much? Share your thoughts, and thanks for watching to the end of the video here. Be sure to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. We'll keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.